People are coming in. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome everyone to this Wardah Books author session with our author Mohammed Faris. Just a bit about Mohammed Faris. Mohammed Faris is an executive coach. He's an author, a speaker known for fusing spirituality with personal and professional development. He is the founder of the Productive Muslim Company, a faith-based training and coaching company, and author of the best-selling book, his first book, The Productive Muslim, Where Faith Meets Productivity. His book, The Barakah Effect, was published last year. It encapsulates years of research and coaching uh, on a life of Barakah and offers readers a renewed perspective of how to live more with less. His latest book, The Barakah Tree, Tale of Faith, Patience, and Unexpected Blessings. We are very privileged and honored to have him today with us on this Zoom call. He joins us today from Dubai. Welcome, my friend.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Thank you for having me, mashallah. It's an honor to be here. And this is my first live event for the Barakah Tree, so I'm excited.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. So let's just jump right in. You have books on productivity and on Barakah culture. You also have various aids such as the Barakah cards and the Istikhara cards, notepads. And now you have this children's book. So my first question to kick things off is, why do you think there is a need to specifically address children and to bring the message of Barakah culture directly to them?
Jazakallah khair. All right, Bismillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So the story of this book actually was my eldest son. I was just finishing writing the Barakah Effect, and he's kind of heard me talk about Barakah and Barakah Effect and all that stuff. And he comes up to me, and that time he was like 7 years old. He goes like, "About what is Barakah?" And right, like imagine I've spent like years writing about Barakah, and I'm like trying to explain it to him, and I was stuck. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can do it in a story format. And subhanAllah, it was the 27th Ramadan, and I just typed up that for the first draft of the Barakah tree, and I shared with him, and he kind of got it, and I was like, oh, okay. And that's when the kind of the idea was born. And I think what I wanted to do with this book, what as I said, is to instill this idea that there's another way of doing things, right? There's a way that might not seem obvious, it might not seem the easiest or the quickest to be successful in life,
Mm, mm,
but is most meaningful. And that was the message. Also, I didn't want to sort of simplify it as well too much. Sometimes people, oh, barakah is blessing, and read some Quran, you'll have some barakah, give some charity, give some barakah. I really wanted to connect the idea of the mindsets, the values, and also the rituals, but in a story format, and how actually it might lead to unexpected barakah, unexpected blessing that's beyond your expectations. And that's kind of the how this whole thing started.
Yeah, I want to zoom in on this word unexpected because in the tagline of the book, it reads a tale of faith, patience, and unexpected blessings. So, this word unexpected, our plans and goals are expected. We do it and we expect results. But there is a different mindset when unexpected outcome is normative. And I think kids kind of understand that, right?
Yeah, I love it. And especially that, again, in a world that tries to tell them that, 1 + 1 = 2, right? And you now you say, well, actually, it's sometimes you do things with the right intentions, you do things with the right mindsets, right values, if you embody if you practice the right rituals, not only sometimes things will come in ways that you unexpected ways. And I think being okay with that. There's a quote that I love. Someone taught me, says, a Muslim should be comfortable with ambiguity. And I think that's
Mm,
something that we often don't sort of talk about because we like the certainty, right? I'll say like hustle culture is very outcome based, results based. It doesn't like ambiguity, it doesn't like uncertainty, and tries everything to control the outcome, control the process, control how things are. But if you look into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation and the nature, it's unexpected, right? It's unexpected. The outcome is always unexpected. And I'll talk about the idea of a gardener mindset. This is again, this is some of the concepts which I'm trying to fuse into the book, but also was based on the Barakah Effect book. The idea that a gardener, they plant the seeds, they work hard, they put, blood, sweat, and tears to grow the tree, but they cannot guarantee the fruits. They can't control the outcomes. They can try to manage the environment, manage sort of circumstances, but it's so hard, right? Whereas the carpenter mindset is like very fixed. And a lot in life, we need to be focused on what's sometimes we need to focus on the process, focus on the intention, focus on what we can do, and leave the outcome to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this applies to things like business, but also applies to things like parenting and raising a child, right? You try your best with your children, you create the right environment, you have the right intentions, you make dua for them, you give them the best education you can, but you cannot guarantee how they'll turn up. And the example we have in the Quran is Nuh alayhi salam, right? Prophet Nuh alayhi salam calling his people for 950 years, and his own son does not believe in him. You can just imagine as a parent how much that must have felt. So this idea of sometimes things might not go our way, right? And things might not turn our way. But as long as we keep are sincere, as long as we do things right, then inshallah ta'ala, we will see unexpected blessings beyond expectation, inshallah
Yeah, that's the thing that I see in your work, in all your work. You don't see barakah, concept of qadar, even spirituality and understanding of where risk comes from. These are not peripheral things. This is central to what it is to be a Muslim. It's central to what it is to be a productive human being. So this is something we need to reclaim.
and not only retain but also rethink how we approach them. I think there's a narrative, right? The narrative of the hustle culture, the narrative of you are in control and you have to control the outcomes, and man is in control of nature and man is the center of the universe, right? And there's almost like all concepts which sometimes can lead to results where we're exploiting the environment, where we are, harming people along the way, where we are trying to, for this, trying to make cutting corners for the sake of the results and the outcome. And I think sometimes we need to really question this narrative and say, well, again, what's the niyyah? What's the intention? What's our purpose in life? To be abd of Allah, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, well, what does that entail? It entails focusing on the process, the how, the environment, the things we need to focus on, the mindsets, the values, the rituals. The rituals we often neglect in the name of getting to the results. How many times we skip prayers or we leave stuff aside because we're trying to get this goal, trying to achieve this thing. And what we're trying to do through all our work is to reframe that and make you realize, no, the journey, the process, this the intention, that's what's within your control. The hard work, that's within your control. Taking action, taking the means, that's within your control. Seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission, making dua, that's within your control. But the outcome is not up to you. And it's very hard. It's very hard. Most of us would get. I'll give you a story. I mean, this book, it's funny. This book was 2 years ago, it was written, literally 2 years ago. And I was like, okay, we should release. And the intention back then was to release it alongside Barakah Effect. So the idea was becomes like a Barakah Effect book, and there's a kid's version goes with it. Like that was the intention. And one thing led to the other, and what the other, there was, okay, let's try to hit, this Ramadan Eid, right? Good timing, Ramadan Eid is coming, let's do Ramadan, and subhanAllah, delays, this and that. So it's almost like at one point you just have like, you know what, you have to say, fiha khair, there's good in this. I don't know whenever Allah decides, we've done our best, but sometimes it can get frustrating because you want to control, control process.
Alhamdulillah. Maybe it's a good time to just go back to the book and maybe just give a synopsis of what the book is about, what message it's trying to convey.
Absolutely. So the book is centered around this character called Kareem, who is an orphan child, right? So the idea of an orphan, again, something that's central to our faith, the idea of taking care of orphans. But this orphan child is trying his best to support his grandparents, who he lives with, and he lives in this place called BarakahVille, right? And in this land, he sort of it's a beautiful land. Its people are welcoming. People say salam, they say salawat. They have time for each other. But then there's a change in this land because of a new factory that opens up, or a new owner of a factory that takes over. And let's say this owner kind of represents the kind of the hustle culture environment and makes life quite difficult, not just for Kareem, but also for those around it. And Kareem has to go through certain challenges in order to kind of bring back Baraka to Barakahville, right? The idea is like, how do you bring that back to his town? And he does it in a very unexpected way. He doesn't set out to do that, but the way, because of his sincerity, because of his hard work, because of his just, understanding of that sometimes things might not happen the way they expect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the doors for him in unexpected ways and actually ends up leading to that paper factory owner sort of, let's say, not being there after a while. Inshallah. I'm not sure how much of the plot I was supposed to share.
I think that's good. That's good. Uh, yeah, you spoke about just now about the mindset of a carpenter and the mindset of the gardener. But I think in the book it sort of talks about like another mindset, and that's like the mindset of this industrialist with a mentality of extraction, almost like the colonialists extracting something from a traditional culture.
Yes.
So there's this industrialist mindset, and then there is this mindset of although he's an orphan, he has a supportive network, he has a supportive structure and community, and he gives back to that community. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's another way of looking at Baraka as well. So could you talk about it?
Yeah. Because again, and this is where maybe it's a nostalgia, or maybe it's something to about the current state of the ummah, where we sometimes we feel, well, this is how things should be, right? This is how do you become professional, right? How do you get things done? And we see this the only way of being at getting things done. And I wanted to kind of represent that through the factory owner and the way the new rules you introduced, which then removes something from the removes some of the barakah in the barakah land, because he makes no time. I say no, there's no time to say salawat, there's no time to share meals, there's no time for that community experience. And it's when Kareem sort of takes the right means and puts the right values in place and works hard, it opens a door for for the community to flourish. That's another thing. People think, oh, if I live in, if I have this mindset, that means I have to stay poor. I have to stay, unproductive. I have to stay. I know it makes me lazy. But what I was trying to produce, like, no, actually, you probably have much better blessing, unexpected blessings by maintaining those values, maintaining those sincerity, doing the right things at the right time. So, and not trying to cut corners and trying to, make a quick buck out of things. So I think those are kind of messages, well, that theme of, as you mentioned, the industrial theme that's very wants to extract it at the expense of these traditions, at the expense of a community, at the expense of the environment, at the expense of these values, which might seem like nuisance to the in industrial mindset. All these things they don't add to the profit margin, right? It doesn't help the bottom line. But I was hoping that with Kareem can have those values in place so that it keeps going and does it makes shows no, there's actually another way of doing this, and that's even much better than the industrial way.
Hmm. For parents who are reading this book or who have read your Barakah Effect and your Productive Muslim and now want to introduce the concept of Barakah to their own children, how do you think they should approach this in terms of what kind of directions of discussion after reading the book, or how do you suggest? Uh, you're on mute.
Sorry. I keep forgetting. So like any kid's book, sometimes it takes a while for a book to get planted, right? For the message to plant it. So sometimes you just read it and let them read on their own if they want, if they can read and if they can sort of enjoy the message. And every now and then, like I remember when I first read my son, and the next day he had a book character day at school. So he decided to dress up like Kareem. So literally dressed up like this guy. That's quite cute. And that was completely his own initiative. I didn't sort of kind of force him. I just say it's up to you. But it was nice to kind of see a hero in Kareem and wanting to emulate the hero, right? Because I think that's also quite important to see those heroes. We have Harry Potter, we have so and so, but to see a hero in Kareem, to say that actually no, I want to emulate somebody who lives Baraka culture, that was very, very heartwarming. And then after a few times of reading, we do have some reflective questions that we share. And I think one of the key questions that I think is I always say, can you think of a time when something bad happened for you, but it turned out to be good? Because one of the central messages we want to teach that something bad might happen, but in the end might be good. So that's when again I had a great discussion with my daughter and my son about this. And it's like just, oh yeah, I remember this time when this happened. We had a sudden move, but it was actually good because I met new friends and X, Y, and Z happened. So them connecting that when something bad happens, that there's khair in it that they may not see. That's a powerful message to take home, and it's a powerful way to kind of to even to take when things don't go their way, right? Because a lot of kids are like my way, the highway, so to speak. The other one, of course, is just explain what barakah is, like getting, well, what does barakah mean? And what do you think barakah means? And from the story, they can sort of get, barakah is, of course, is blessings, doing the right thing, but also it's about doing the right thing. It's about, it's something you can actually seek, something you can attract in your life through not only rituals, right? Yeah, of course, you give charity with Quran, you pray, there's barakah, but also through the way you think and the way you, and the decisions you make, right? And make the right decisions, especially for the sake of Allah. Those things bring barakah. So that's one of the key things, even with barakah effect, because I feel traditionally most of us think of barakah in very ritualistic terms, right? I give charity, I'll get barakah. I pray, I'll have barakah. I'll read Quran, I have barakah, which is true, right? These rituals, of course, attract barakah. But one of the key messages from the barakah effect and this book is that the mindsets and the values that you live by also bring barakah to your life.
Hmm. Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Thank you for that. Um, so so the in the book includes the questions of discussion at the end, and it also has a very lively illustration. So I just want to ask, how was it like working with an illustrator for this book? Because from my own experience, working with children's books, it can be both challenging and rewarding.
Yes.
So so
It's
can we have a peek behind the curtain about?
It's interesting. We had I didn't work directly with Illustrator. It was managed through my publisher, which is very unique. I think, given again that time frame, there was this intent back in January, like, oh, let's aim for Ramadan launch, right? And we found this illustrator and like, all right, Bismillah, let's work with them. And it was through the medium of my publisher that they sort of worked with them. But I saw the early sketches. And I was very impressed that they kind of captured the spirit of the Baraka land and the sort of the Kareem and even look and feel. But it was interesting at one point, just to get the point, this way sometimes the author has to get an input, where they showed the villain and they show the villain dressed up in traditional clothes. And I'm like, actually, no, we need to make him look a bit more professional because we're trying to make that image, right? Because we don't want to confuse people as well. So then they changed that. So that was where, again, just to deliver that message home that you picked on, like the industrial versus the
Mm,
traditional. Whereas let's know the villain has to dress up in a clothing that makes it sound represents the kind of what we're trying to say. So that's what it was. That's probably the only part that I gave feedback. Other than that, I was really impressed. The other one, of course, is the look and feel and the colors. We didn't want this to look too glossy as well.
mm,
My intention was this to become like a classic, right? Just like The Giving Tree or some of these classical books that are not. Sometimes a lot of these I've noticed a lot of children's book are very very glossy, very flashy, right? Very 3D-ish kind of. We want to keep it like very almost like classical, so hand drawn. Of course, the colors were digital, but hand drawn and more textured. A lot of if you notice the texture of the fruit, texture of the tree, there's more textured. That classic look is what we were going for, and they captured it well with that. And I have to give kudos to Claritas for the quality of publication. I mean, I was very impressed. I wasn't sure how it's going to come up, but they really put a lot of effort into the quality of the paper, the quality of the cover. It felt like one of the, inshallah, hopefully a classic in the Muslim book space, inshallah.
you've done tours for the previous two books, and this is a very different book. So, how are you gonna be touring the book, or are you going to do events with authors? Are you going to work with storytellers or something like that?
Right now, there's two things happening. Number one, there will be an audiobook version that we're partnering
Oh,
with Mini Muslims. So Mini Muslims has one of the largest platforms for children, YouTube, sort of platforms for children. They have a lot of songs, a lot of characters. So I'm working with Raif, who is one of the awakening artists, to produce like almost like an animated version of the book on for many Muslims. That's one. And secondly, I think we'll be doing tours, mainly schools, right? So working with schools, with the UK, inshallah, hopefully, inshallah, with Singapore, going around and actually talking to different schools and kind of reading this book in schools. I'll be honest with you, as I was telling you before we got on the call, like this is a new area for me, right? I'm not used to writing for kids book. It was actually much more harder writing for the kids book than my normal books. So I was saying, I'm not sure I'll write another other children's book, but let's see how this one does. But I feel it's easier to write. In fact, I even gave this to one of a very well-known Ruxana Khan, one of the very well-known
Mm.
authors, and she gave me some very interesting critical feedback. So I realized, wow, like I need to, it's a craft. You gotta really build your craft. But I say to myself, you know what? I wrote this for my kids. If other kids benefit, then alhamdulillah, I'll be honored. And inshallah ta'ala, you know, again, it contributes to that message of let's all live a better culture, inshallah ta'ala.
Yeah, that's right. Is the mess? I mean, leave aside the technicalities and but the message comes through, the sincerity comes through, and that is something unique to you, alhamdulillah. So yeah, you never know that this could spin off a new career in your writing life. Allah has plans, and we have no idea what His plans are.
I mean, I say follow the breadcrumbs, right? When I say like you don't know, like something Allah puts a breadcrumb in front of you, just follow it, and you think you're going this way, but then you end up going this way. So, Allah Alam. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So just want to ask you whether there's anything you want to speak about the book or through the book, because one question I have is that when you're talking about explaining Barakah to children, uh, sometimes it's an easier in when talk around gratitude. So I wonder if you experience that, where you talk about Barakah as well as its adjacencies into it.
That's a good question. Um, I haven't thought of it from that perspective. I guess I'm so trained in the Barakah effect way. It's like I was like mindsets, values, rituals. All right, let's go. And the gardener mindset. So again, there's a few frameworks that I've kind of leaned on for this writing book. One, of course, is the mindsets, values, and rituals. So trying to capture that. It's not just about rituals, but
I
about
see.
values. And then another key frame was the gardener mindset, which was literally experienced in the book. You know, the idea of intentions, hard work, seek Allah's permission, and leave the outcome to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's when the unexpected blessings comes in. So it's more reliant on the frameworks that we've already built. Um, versus trying to kind of come up with either new frameworks or explain other frameworks. So that was kind of the approach we had. But it'll be interesting again. Sometimes especially with this kids book, I'm already hearing or getting feedback that people are explaining and interpreting things in ways I never expected. So I'm always fascinated by how people will be reading this, how people they'll be explaining it, what messages they'll pick up, which perhaps even I didn't have the intention for it. But subhanAllah, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they see things through their own perspective, their own experiences, and they pick on things. So I'll be interested to kind of hear that inshallah for people, inshallah.
Okay. I wonder if I can open it up to the audience. If there's any questions you would like to ask, you can put your hand up, and then uh, we can open it up, inshallah. Uh, yeah. In the meantime, you were saying that Barakah Effect, you're working on some sort of an animation and an audiobook. Is there an audiobook in plans for Barakah Effect and Productive Muslim?
So Barakah Effect, we already have the audiobook, and both Barakah.
Hmm.
So the Audible version are already out there. If you find Audible,
Audible. Okay, I
yeah,
see.
both Barakah Muslim and Barakah Effect are on Audible. Barakah Tree will be on Mini Muslims. Sort of that's will be the part. We've been audio version on Mini Muslim YouTube channel. This is kind of a new. I've noticed this a lot of children's books authors. Again, thought of exploring this. They have like an animated version of the book on with these sort of partnerships. So that'll be another way to kind of again spread the work and promote the book. Yeah, sure, that's the intention so far.
So for the audiobooks, for Barakah Effect and Productive Muslims, who read the book? Or did you read the book?
So Barakah Muslim, I read the book, and
Mm.
it's painful. It took, it took me, I think, 2 weeks of 8-hour work weeks, and by the end of the week, people can hear my voice like dying. That
Yeah.
was Barakah Muslim. For Barakah Effect, unfortunately, I didn't have the time. I wanted to read myself, but I didn't have the time at that point. And then there was the deadline to launch before Ramadan was there. So we went ahead. We worked with David Williamson, who runs a platform called Audio Ilm. It's a beautiful,
Mm.
mashallah. He did a great job, and mashallah, he really, really captured the spirit of the book. So, he's a professional narrator, and he's done a good work on it, inshallah. So the second book was narrated by him, and it's so interesting. You hear like two camps with audibles. Some people like they go, no, the author should read the book, and others like, no,
Yeah.
no, the author should not read the book. And so I just gave up. I'm like, you know what? It's like there'll always be people who prefer one the other, but alhamdulillah, I mean, both ways are what we were looking for, inshallah.
Okay. There's a question on the chat by VD. The question is, do you plan to translate the Barakah Tree into other languages?
Oh, good question. I'll definitely pass that message to my publisher because I've been asking them to. I know that they've done a good job in the past with Barakah Tree or the Barakah Effect and Barakah Muslim. They've translated into Bahasa, into Malay. I know Barakah Effect is on the works now to translate into Malay and Bahasa, as well as
Mm.
working on a Bangladeshi version, Turkish and Bosnian, and they're working through the sort of different languages, especially the majority Muslim languages. Barakah Tree, I have not heard from. I guess it's just launch. Normally,
Mm.
after like 6 months to a year, that's when they start reaching out to their foreign translation publishers and they work out. But I'm sure if, inshallah, depends on how the uptake. Right now, again, because it's a new genre for me, and and I'm a sort of considered a new children's book author in the stage. I guess the publisher's sort of taking a wait and see. If it picks up, if it does really well, then I think they'll go all in. If not, they'll just like, all right, we'll just see how it goes. Again, you're at the mercy of the publisher sometimes because they have to also make the business decisions and there's a lot of investments involved.
Mm.
Yeah.
So the ones that are already in Bahasa, you say is Barakah Effect. Is that
But
published with the local Indonesian publisher?
so Productive Muslim has been translated with Gramedia, and
Ah.
and Barakah Effect is ongoing translation right now. I know they signed a deal with I think with also Gramedia or subsidiary of Gramedia, that they are, so there's a local Indonesian publisher that have taken on board the Barakah Effect. With the Bahasa, with the Malay, I believe Barak Muslim also was with again, all with local publishers. So they actually work with local publishers who have a network of stores, ideally, because they need one distribution as well as the translation ability, inshallah. So that's my understanding.
Mm. I have another question here from Evie. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Assalamualaikum. What advice can you give someone who is interested in writing a children's book and wants to instill some Islamic values but lacks or still developing their own Islamic knowledge?
I
So
love
two
that.
questions, really. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say I'm an experienced children's book author. Like I said, it's my first one, so you'll judge if it's good enough to ask me that advice. But like I always do with all my kids, all my books. Number one, again, what's the intention, right? Kind of really asking yourself, what's the niyyah? Two is right for your own, right? So like Barakah effect out of myself, Barakah tree of my own children. And I feel like for me, that really makes it more, hopefully more heartfelt, more you wanna. This is again, even if it sells zero copies, if for you've done this for yourself, you've done this for your children, and that becomes more meaningful and it comes through. And three, then work with professionals. Like, for example, I actually hired an editor for this book. If you saw the first version, I think I remember sharing it with Ibrahim. It was like way too long, way too long. And then even the editor, I hired an editor who has experience with this book. She's like, you got to cut it down like less than 1,000 words. I'm like, what do you mean less than 1,000 words? I'm used to writing like 60,000, 70,000 word books. She's like, no, that's children's books. Like, oh goodness. So I worked with a professional editor, of course, working with a publisher, working with illustrators. So you have to find that the professional helps a lot. So yes, of course, you can self-publish, and yes, of course, you can do this on your own. But I feel having professionals on board really makes a difference, and the quality jumps, 10 times. So that'll be my recommendation. You get good feedback. And I'll say if you're really interested into building a career into writing children's books, it's not just one-off books. I would say develop the craft, right? This is I was saying, like, I learned this, that it's not as easy as it looks. Oh yeah, 1,000 words, psh, it's easy. I can write down 1,000 words in a single day. But you realize actually it's a craft, and there's a lot goes behind the scenes in terms of the theme and the audience and the language and the choice of words and the tone and how the pictures appear with the text. So it's a science and it's a craft. So learn that craft. And alhamdulillah, these days there's so many online resources, and I'm sure there's offline resources as well. And I think that's sort of like really getting deep is it will be very valuable for you to do something that inshallah does really well, inshallah ta'ala.
I just want to add that because I know you and I know what you've done. It's a long road to becoming a published author, and it's a long road, and you need that long road because you need to gather the people in your team. You need to gather the network. You need to gather good people who you can depend on and depend on their advice. So it's a long process. You do not become a writer overnight. So
Yeah.
that needs to be underscored.
It's a process, but it's a very rewarding process. I always
Mm.
feel that it's I want to say one of the best sort of sadaqah jariyah as well. Like it's such a beautiful, like, the fact is the gift that keeps giving. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's sometimes you want to, cry. Like, why am I doing this? But at the same time, it's definitely reward, both inshallah dunya and akhirah, inshallah.
So the questions, let's see. I love Assalamu alaikum. There is a children's version of Barakah. It's just thankful for that. Will there be an extension to the book where the children can apply the concept of the Barakah through an activity book, for example?
That's a good question. I have not thought of that. I'll tell you, I'm a very like follow the breadcrumb guy. Like, okay, let's see where this
So,
goes. Right? If it opens up, okay, Bismillah, let's keep doing it. If not, okay, well, as I'm not, I don't, I'm a guy who people ask, what's your vision 10 years? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm just going with the whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in front of me, I'll go inshallah ta'ala. So I think this is where, inshallah ta'ala, if this book stands out. And also, I would love to see community-based resources. For example, I'll share something very cute. My
mm.
children, there's in the back of the book, they put this blank pages because of the number of pages they had to have for printing. And it's interesting, and I didn't know this. I just picked up the copy that I give my kids, and my daughter just drew this entire BarakahVille on her own. It's not something that I told her to do, but she's like, oh, there's some blank pages. She drew the Barakah tree and she drew. So I feel like it's really cool that the kind of kids have the imagination to kind of take this on board. So as parents, as educators, if you develop your own resources, think about that. I'll be honored. Like, love to support, love to highlight people who have added to the book. From our side, again, it's one of those things where we're just seeing with how this goes and taking forward. Again, remember, my work is mainly working with professionals and adults. So even Barak Muslim is mainly an adult sort of training, coaching company. But who knows? Maybe Barakah Tree will put us into the children's market, inshallah.
I mean, your children are readers to my own heart now because I write so much in my books, and the best activity book is the book itself. You can just draw in the book, and
That's it.
yeah. So that's how children make the books their own. Sometimes a blank page is the best activity book.
That's it.
Let me go through the questions again. Let me see. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Can you kindly share tips on how you write something like The Productive Muslim? Because it resonates very well with me. So more writing tips.
So with writing, I guess again, it's a craft, and I'm sure if you read my writing now compared to 17 years ago, it's like you'll be like, wow, that was terrible. So that's the first thing, and the second thing is having a really good editor. So when I first wrote the Barakah Muslim, my first book, the first draft that I submitted to my editor, I hired this developmental editor, Nils Parker. No, not Nils Parker. I can't forget the name. Yeah, Nils Parker. Parker. He was actually the editor for Ryan Holiday. And I reached out
Oh,
to him and I said, listen, I want you to edit this book. And he's like, I don't know anything about Islam Muslims. I'm like, perfect. Because I want somebody who doesn't, if you understand this book, because I was writing Protect a Muslim for what I call the mainstream Muslims. Yeah, Muslims who perhaps are not practicing, but they would appreciate a good book written for them, or at least a cultured Muslim. And they said, okay. So he's all right, sure. So he completely destroyed the book. Like I'm telling you, if I showed you the markings and the restructuring he did, And what he told me was like, Hamad, you did not write a book. You basically wrote a workbook. Because remember, the Productive Muslim was based on a presentation I used to give quite often, a 2-day presentation on productivity in Islam. And he was like, this is not a book, this is a workbook. So my first lesson was like, write a book as a book, means you have to, it has to stand on its own, it has to feel like it's a medium. And then after I went through a number of edits with him and alhamdulillah finalized the book, I asked him for just like before we kind of wrap up and listen, what's your advice to me? And he goes, Hamid, you have good ideas, but your writing is too dry. And if you read the Barakah Muslim, it's very much like a manual, right? Almost like a reference guide. Do this, don't do this, how you wake up, how you sleep, right? Very practical, very guide. And he said, whenever your voice comes through, whenever your emotions come
Mm.
through, whenever your stories come through, the book becomes alive. So if you notice the Barakah effect, that's what I did. I've really focused on stories, my voice, on just being vulnerable, like sharing, and exposing myself. Anyway, sometimes it's like just sharing from the heart. And I felt like the Barakah effect, inshallah, I hope is slightly better writing than the Barakah Muslim. So I feel like that's where but that's where you learn from doing it. As Ibrahim mentioned, it's a journey and it's like you write. And now what I'm doing now, just to maintain my writing habit, is trying to do the newsletters. So I feel the newsletter has been really helpful, kind of forces me to write every day, every week, twice a week, to write a newsletter, at least 1,000 words. And just that craft, again, you build it, it's a craft. And you learn and you develop and you try and you make mistakes and sometimes it resonates or doesn't resonate. But that's part of the journey. And again, and what I would say is find your voice and write from the heart and people will notice it. It doesn't have to sound like me, it doesn't have to sound like any other author you like. It should be your voice, but it starts off by you testing the waters and writing and putting stuff out there, inshallah.
Yeah, I must put in a plug. I love your newsletters, and it has two effects. One, as you say, it trains you as a thinker, and it trains you as a writer. And for the recipient, it gives a moment of pause for you to read something like that. And it's refreshing to know that your newsletters is written by a human being for once.
Seriously, I know. I actually just to like, it's funny. People ask me, "What's your writing process?" And I'm like, I still like start writing by hand. I'm like, I'm gonna start by hand. There's something quite spiritual about writing by hand. There's something about the mind, body, heart, right, spirit. That Allah says in the Quran, "Allam bil qalam," He taught by the pen. I feel like there's something there, and I always like write by hand. And it's such a difference. But if I start writing straight on a laptop versus when I start write by hand, I can write by hand and then I translate laptop. And the other thing I would say is the art of writing is in the rewriting, right? So once
Mm,
on a laptop, I actually print it or I put it in my remarkable sort of like iPad thing, and I will actually edit it by hand as well. And I feel like this that process of write by hand, write on the laptop, put it on a paper, edit it by hand, put it again. Yes, it takes long. It takes up to 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, depending on the topic. But like you said, it's just the quality tells. And even my wife was like, I'm noticing it's getting better now. It's just like I'm like, thanks. No, no, I forgot you're appreciating that writing. But after a while, before that, I was like, before if I'm rushing, I was like, okay, just type it up and send it. And you can tell the difference between those, inshallah, as well.
mm. There's a question from Bangladesh. I think this is a business question. She's asking whether you wanna come to the Bangladesh for a seminar for the Bharati Muslim and asking whether they could be part of the effort to publish Barakah Tree in Bengali. So maybe that's something for Claritas. Maybe you wanna comment on that?
Yes, alhamdulillah, I think they've just signed a book deal with a Bangladeshi sort of publisher for the Barakah Effect. So waiting for that to come out, inshallah ta'ala. With Barakah Tree, I'm not sure yet, but I know for Barakah Effect. So once that comes out, I think there is an intention to come, inshallah ta'ala, to Bangladesh and do a launch. I know that we have a huge reader base there. The Barakah Muslim did quite well there. So I'll be honored to definitely come and meet brothers and sisters there and share, inshallah, Barakah work, inshallah, together, inshallah ta'ala, for sure.
Potential breadcrumb coming in. This is from Farah. The question is, Alhamdulillah, mommy here, who has read both the Barakah Effect and the Bharati Muslim. Happy to see that there's a Barakah Tree, a kids version. Would there be a productive Muslim journal for kids?
Ah, good question. So for now, Allah, I don't know, no idea. Again, I've worked one project at a time, so definitely the next project is not going to be that for sure, for now at least. But again, it's one of those things where I know that the 10th anniversary of the Barakah Muslim is coming up. So subhanAllah, it got published in 2016, January. And part of me wants to, I remember at that conference,
Yeah, yeah.
we spoke about before writing Barakah Effect, my actually initial intention was to rewrite the Barakah Muslim. And subhanAllah, actually, it was Ibrahim's advice and other people's advice, like, no, why you rewrite the same book? Write a new book. And hence the Barakah Effect, which was written. So you can thank Ibrahim for pushing me to write a new book versus rewriting an old book. But there is definitely, I feel like there's a lot of stuff in the Barakah Muslim is very outdated, especially in the science part, the sleep part, the nutrition part. Things have moved on. So I would love to rewrite some parts. But at the same time, again, sometimes you feel like whether it's probably better to write new books versus to go back and change because it'll never be done, so to speak. So that's maybe one more project with the Barakah Muslim book. But to your point, the journal, the closest thing we have is a Barakah journal. But I guess it's not a very children's friendly book. We do, I mean, I know we've set the intention. We do want to have a Barakah Muslim kids sort of platform, eventually. And the Barakah Tree will be one of the first things we have. And even curriculums. We would love to develop curriculums for at least for high schoolers because a lot of this productivity stuff becomes very useful as about to enter college. So we want to work with curriculum designers, people who can develop a curriculum around the Barakah Muslim. I know we did some work with Muis in Singapore, where we did, as part of the Madrasa program, we had a Barakah Muslim as part of the Youth Alive programs. So we had some experience there. So we'd love to bring that globally as well, inshallah. Still, again, one of those things that like one thing at a time. And I have a one-track mind. That's my problem.
Yeah. So
Alhamdulillah.
yeah, this turning out to be a product brainstorming session. So
I love it. Appreciate it.
another question, maybe perhaps the last question, or one of the last questions is thank you for organizing the session. A good reminder to focus on our rituals in relation to Allah. I've seen your books on display and heard about them briefly. I also subscribe to your newsletter. Time to book. Yeah, it's just an appreciation of what you do.
May Allah accept, inshallah.
Yep.
And Baraka, and also that's the thing is like these books are just, I'll say the books doesn't change your life, right? It's more about
Mm.
coming in with the sincerity to learn, to apply, to benefit, and that's when the change. The book is just the medium. It itself doesn't change you. So I hope that everyone, whatever any books do, that alhamdulillah, by any author that that is useful, beneficial, you come with our intentions, you apply the knowledge. I ask Allah to accept and make it, you benefit all, inshallah.
Any plans to come to Singapore or the Far East?
Man, I miss it. I was just telling you, I really miss it. I think probably it's gonna be in the fall or the winter. So that's gonna be because I'm going to the US. Might do some US tour in the summer, and then inshallah I'll be back in this region and hopefully be closer to come back to Malaysia, Singapore, inshallah.
Inshallah. As always, we look forward to your company. You are a good friend to have, and I'm happy that we are enjoying the journey of what you are doing together. Alhamdulillah.
I mean, thank you so much for your partnership. Again, I think Wardah was always the first time Barakah Muslim appeared in international stores in Wardah, and always been a great supporter of all the work. So I really, really appreciate this partnership, and that's why I'm always, and also I love your newsletters as well. That's how I discover I really keep track of what's happening in the world, at least in the English mediums in the literary world, through your newsletters. So Jazakallah khair for all that you do for the community as well, inshallah.
Oh, actually, since you're here, you want to talk about the next thing that is coming. Our stock will be coming in, but you want to talk about your new shiny thing?
New shiny thing. Yeah, so yesterday we released the Shukr cards. So I don't know how many of you have the Baraka cards. The Baraka cards are cards that help you with the mindsets, values, and rituals. So think about which values, mindset, rituals you're going to apply in your life. And recently we came up with the Shukr cards. And this is a partnership with Hafsa Adham, she's a coach and she has a platform on spiritual confidence. And what we wanted to do is to really help people live more grateful lives. I mean, we tend to, one of the biggest challenges of experiencing Baraka is when we just are so ungrateful. We always like, I was complaining, not enough this, not enough that. And we wanted to really experience gratitude and not just by lip service, but by acting. So the card is like a deck of card. What does is gonna be, inshallah, we're ordering some. We will have four types of cards. There's the act it, which means these are actions you got to take. There's speak it, there's things you got to say. And then the best one is discuss it. These are great cards for you to have as part of team building in a family dinner, discussing with your family. Like, for example, one of the cards says, um, one thing I learned from going through a very tough period in my life is dot dot dot. Right. So each person shares about what they learned by going through a tough period and then being thankful for that. And then there's challenge cards, things like, for example, fill up one water bottle and try to only drink that water for the whole day. Makes you really realize just being grateful for the drops of water we have and water we have. So stuff like that. It's a practical tool. I hope you guys enjoy it and inshallah benefit from it, inshallah.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. As I said, thank you for your session today, and thank you everyone for joining us. Barakah Tree is available at Wardah Books. Productive Muslim is also available, and Barakah Effect is also available. The book goes out of stock normally very fast, so don't wait if you if you want to get a copy. So,
And especially before Eid,
Alhamdulillah, thank you.
it's a great Eid gift for your kids, inshallah.
That's right. That's right. There's not much of a gift giving practice in Southeast Asia, but books should be the exception.
Uh, Alhamdulillah, that's been better.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah. Thank
Alhamdulillah.
you so much.
So thank you.
Appreciate you. Jazakallah khair.
Alhamdulillah.
Salam.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Salam alaikum.